What if the reason a child is suffering is not fate, but something everyone chose not to see? For 8 years, the boy kept touching his ear. Not once. Not twice. Again and again. Doctors called it a habit. A nervous tic. Nothing important. But they were wrong. Because deep inside that ear, something dark was growing. And the truth was so simple, so terrifying, that it would destroy everything his father believed. Oliver Hart was a billionaire. Private jets. Endless money. Power that opened any door in the world. But his son, Shah, lived in silence. 8 years old, and he had never heard a single sound. Oliver spent millions trying to change that. He crossed oceans. He begged specialists whose names filled medical journals. He trusted machines, scans, and cold verdicts. Every single one said the same thing. Irreversible. Congenital. Accept it. But how do you accept silence when your child is all you have left? Oliver's wife died giving birth to Shah. She never got to say his name. And Shah never got to hear hers. So Oliver kept searching. Kept paying. Kept praying in the dark, bargaining with a God who never answered. He did not know the answer was already inside his house. Cleaning his floors. Keeping her eyes down. Trying to survive. Her name was Victoria. 27 years old. No degree. No authority. No reason for anyone powerful to listen to her. But she noticed something no one else did. Something the machines missed. Something the experts ignored. Something that should never have been there. One quiet evening, while the mansion slept and the billionaire was away, Victoria made a decision. A decision that could save a child's life. Or destroy her own. Because sometimes, the most dangerous truth is not what we do not know. It is what we refuse to look at. Before we continue, if this story has already touched you, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. It helps us bring you more real stories that deserve to be heard. Now, let's continue. Catherine died the day Shah was born. The doctors called it complications. Too much blood, not enough time. Oliver held her hand while the life slipped out of her eyes. Her lips moved, like she was trying to say something, but no sound came. And in that moment, the silence that would haunt their son also entered Oliver's soul. Oliver never forgave himself. If he had chosen a different hospital, if he had demanded better care, if he had paid closer attention, maybe she would still be here. Maybe Shah would be different. The guilt sat on his chest like a stone he could not lift. So he did the only thing he knew how to do. He tried to buy a miracle. He threw money at the impossible. Millions of dollars. The best specialists on Earth. Flights across oceans. Hotels that cost more per night than most people earned in a month. And every doctor said the same thing. Your son's deafness is congenital. There is nothing we can do. You must accept it. Accept it. How could he accept that his boy would live in silence forever? How could he accept that Shah would never hear his father say, "I am sorry your mother is not here"? So Oliver kept searching. He kept signing checks. He kept feeding hope like a fire that refused to die. He did not realize the answer was not coming from someone with a white coat and a famous name. It was coming from someone most people would not even look at twice. Someone who was about to step through his front door with nothing but faith in her chest and bills she could not pay. Victoria Deer arrived on a Tuesday morning in October. The sky was gray, the kind of gray that makes your thoughts feel heavier than they should. She stood at the gate of the Hart estate, gripping her bag with both hands, forcing her breathing to slow. This was it. Her last chance. Back in Newark, her grandmother lay in a nursing home bed. The bills were stacked on Victoria's kitchen table like a tower that kept growing no matter how hard she tried. 3 months behind, the letter said. If she did not pay, they would transfer her grandmother to a state facility. The kind of place where people were forgotten. Where you became a number instead of a name. Where nobody held your hand when you were scared. Victoria could not let that happen. Her grandmother had raised her after her parents died in a car accident when Victoria was 11. That woman fed her when the fridge was empty, prayed over her when life felt impossible, and kept her safe when the world did not care. She deserved better than a cold room and strangers who looked right through her. So Victoria took the job at a billionaire's mansion. She did not care about the address. She did not care about the wealth. She only cared about the paycheck. The head housekeeper, Mrs. Patterson, met her at the door. Stern face, sharp eyes, the kind of woman who noticed everything and forgave nothing. "You are Victoria." "Yes, ma'am." "You will clean. You will stay quiet. You will keep to yourself." Mr. Hart does not like disruptions, especially around his son. Victoria nodded. "I understand." "Do you?" Because the last girl did not. She tried to get too friendly with the boy. Thought she could help. She was gone within a week. Victoria swallowed. "I am just here to work, ma'am." Mrs. Patterson steadied her, then gave a single nod. "Good. Follow me." As they walked through the mansion, Victoria kept her eyes down, but she still felt it. The silence was so thick it felt alive. The servants moved without speaking, without smiling. The air itself felt heavy, like a fog that refused to lift. And then she saw him. Shao was sitting alone on the floor near the window. A small boy with dark hair and eyes that seemed too old for his face. He was lining up wooden blocks in perfect rows, touching each one carefully, like he was feeling for something invisible. Victoria slowed her steps without realizing it. He did not look up. He did not react to footsteps. He did not flinch when Mrs. Patterson spoke sharply behind her. Shao lived in a world without sound. Victoria had seen deaf children before. Her grandmother worked as a nurse for years, and sometimes Victoria helped at community centers. She knew the signs. The way children learn to read lips. The exaggerated expressions. The careful attention to vibrations. But Shao was different. He kept touching his right ear. Not gently. Not absent-mindedly. He pressed it, rubbed it, sometimes winced like something hurt deep inside. Then he would stop, breathe, and go back to his blocks. Victoria felt a strange tightening in her chest. They continued walking. That afternoon, Victoria cleaned the east wing. Bathrooms bigger than her entire apartment. Marble floors so polished she could see her reflection in them. Everything expensive. Everything empty. Silence followed her everywhere. Later, while dusting the library, she saw Oliver Hart for the first time. He was sitting at a long table, stacks of papers spread around him, but he was not reading. He was staring at nothing. His face looked carved from stone. Sharp jaw. Dark circles under his eyes. A man who had not slept properly in years. When he noticed her, he flinched slightly, like he had forgotten other people existed. "You are the new maid." "Yes, sir." He steadied her for a moment, then nodded. "Just do your work. And please, keep things quiet." "Always, sir." She meant it. Victoria finished her shift without incident. But as she left the mansion that evening, her thoughts stayed behind. With the boy. With his ear. That night, she could not sleep. She kept seeing Shao's face in her mind. The way he pressed his ear. The way his brow tightened in pain. The way no one seemed to notice. Doctors had examined him for years. Machines, scans, specialists. And yet, something so simple had gone unseen. Or ignored. The next morning, Victoria arrived early. Mrs. Patterson assigned her to clean near Shao's room. Victoria nodded, keeping her expression neutral, but her heart began to race. She worked quietly. Carefully. Shao was sitting on his bed, drawing shapes on a tablet. He did not look at her. But again, his hand drifted to his ear. Press. Rub. Pause. Victoria stopped. She hesitated. She remembered Mrs. Patterson's warning. She remembered the girl who was fired. She remembered the bills on her table. But she also remembered her grandmother's voice. If you see something wrong, and you stay silent, you are choosing the wrong side. Victoria knelt slowly, making sure she was in Xiao's line of sight. She smiled gently and pointed to her ear, then to his. Xiao froze. For a moment, fear crossed his face. Then confusion. Then curiosity. Victoria did not speak. She only raised her eyebrows, asking a silent question. Xiao hesitated, then nodded. Slowly, carefully, Victoria leaned closer. And what she saw made her breath catch in her throat. Inside Xiao's ear, something was wrong. Victoria did not need a medical degree to see it. The skin around the opening was irritated. Slightly swollen. And deeper inside, just past where the light reached, there was something dark. Not earwax. Something solid. Something that did not belong there. Victoria's heart began to pound. She pulled back immediately, afraid she had crossed the line. She signed sorry the best way she could, touching her chest and bowing her head slightly. Xiao did not pull away. Instead, he touched his ear again, harder this time, then pointed at it. His eyes filled with frustration. Pain. That was when Victoria understood. This was not just deafness. This was suffering. Victoria stood up, her hands trembling. She knew what she was supposed to do. Tell Mrs. Patterson. Walk away. Let professionals handle it. But something told her that if she did, nothing would happen. Everyone believed Xiao's condition was permanent. Untreatable. Already decided. Nobody was looking anymore. Victoria made a choice. She went to the supply room and grabbed a small flashlight. Not hospital equipment. Just a simple light she used to check under furniture. She returned to Xiao's room, heart racing so loud she was sure someone would hear it. She knelt again and gently angled the light toward his ear. And then she saw it clearly. A small, dark object lodged deep inside. Not organic. Not natural. Metal. Victoria's stomach dropped. She pulled back, shaking her head in disbelief. How long had that been there? Days. Months. Years. Xiao watched her face carefully. He could not hear her gasp, but he saw it. His eyes widened. Victoria took a deep breath and forced herself to stay calm. She signed slowly, carefully, hoping he would understand. Doctor. She mimed a phone. She mimed help. Xiao shook his head violently. Fear flooded his face. Victoria realized then what he was afraid of. Hospitals. Doctors. Strangers touching him. Years of tests. Years of cold hands and bright lights. Years of being poked and examined while nothing ever changed. He did not trust them anymore. Victoria swallowed hard. She looked at the door. At the hallway beyond. At the rules she was breaking. And then she looked back at the boy. I will not hurt you, she whispered, even though he could not hear it. She did not know why she said it. Maybe she needed to hear it herself. Victoria made another decision. She would not remove it. Not here. Not alone. But she would make sure someone with authority could not ignore this. That evening, when Oliver Hart returned home, Victoria waited. She waited until dinner ended. She waited until the house was quiet. She waited until she saw him heading toward his study. Her hands were shaking as she stepped into his path. Sir. Oliver stopped. What is it? Victoria swallowed. Sir, I think your son needs to see a doctor. A different kind of doctor. His eyes hardened instantly. We have seen every doctor. I know, sir. But please. Just look. She held up the flashlight. And in that moment, Oliver Hart felt something he had not felt in years. Hope. Oliver stared at the flashlight like it was an insult. What are you suggesting? Victoria felt her throat tighten, but she did not back away. Sir, I think there is something inside your son's ear. Something that should not be there. Silence filled the hallway. Dangerous silence. Oliver's jaw clenched. His eyes darkened, not with anger, but with something sharper. Do you have any idea how many specialists have examined my son? Yes, sir. Do you understand what you are accusing them of? Victoria nodded slowly. I am not accusing anyone. I am asking you to look. Oliver hesitated. For 8 years, hope had been beaten out of him. Every new promise had ended in disappointment. Every spark had burned him deeper. And yet, something in her voice, something in her eyes. Not excitement. Not greed. Not fear. Conviction. He exhaled slowly. Show me. Victoria led him to Shaw's room. The boy stiffened when he saw his father's face. Oliver forced himself to soften his expression. He knelt in front of his son and signed gently. It is okay. Shaw's hands trembled, but he nodded. Victoria raised the flashlight carefully, just like before. She angled it slightly. Oliver leaned closer. And then he saw it. A dark shape lodged deep inside the ear canal. Too sharp. Too defined. Not supposed to be there. His breath caught. His hands began to shake. This was not possible. 8 years. 8 years of scans and tests. How could something like this be missed? Oliver stood abruptly. Get my phone. Now. Within an hour, the Hart mansion was no longer silent. Cars pulled into the driveway. Lights turned on in rooms that had stayed dark for years. A private ENT specialist arrived, then another. Then a pediatric surgeon Oliver had flown in from Boston. They examined Shaw carefully. Gently. With more caution than any doctor before them. And within minutes, the truth came out. A small metallic fragment had been lodged deep inside Shaw's ear since infancy. Likely from a medical instrument. Likely during birth. It had blocked sound. Caused constant pain. Triggered inflammation that worsened over time. The room spun around Oliver. You are telling me my son was never truly deaf? The surgeon swallowed. He was not born deaf, sir. His hearing was obstructed. The words slammed into Oliver's chest. Obstructed. 8 years stolen. 8 years of silence. 8 years of suffering. Because someone did not look closely enough. Tears blurred his vision as he dropped to his knees in front of his son. I am so sorry. Shaw watched his father cry, confused but calm, placing a small hand on Oliver's cheek. For the first time in 8 years, hope was no longer dangerous. It was real. The surgery was scheduled immediately. There was no hesitation. No waiting lists. No delays. Oliver Hart made one call, then another, and the entire system bent around his desperation. But this time, it was different. This time, it was not about money. It was about redemption. Victoria was told to go home. She stood in the hallway while doctors prepared Shaw for surgery, her hands clasped tightly together. Mrs. Patterson avoided her eyes. The other staff whispered. She did not care. She had done what she came to do. Before she could leave, Oliver approached her. His face was pale. His voice unsteady. You saved my son. Victoria shook her head. I just noticed something. He looked at her like she had spoken a foreign language. 8 years of doctors did not notice. You did. She swallowed. I almost did not say anything. Oliver closed his eyes. And if you had not? He did not finish the sentence. The surgery took less than an hour. Victoria sat in her car in the driveway, gripping the steering wheel, unable to drive away. She stared at the mansion, her heart racing with every passing minute. Then her phone rang. "Mr. Hart would like to see you." She rushed back inside. In the recovery room, Shaw lay on the bed, small and pale, but peaceful. A bandage covered his ear. Machines beeped softly around him. Oliver stood beside him, tears running freely down his face. The surgeon nodded. "The obstruction is gone. The ear is healing. We expect his hearing to return gradually." Oliver dropped his head. "Thank you." The surgeon hesitated. "There is something else." The metal fragment caused inflammation, but it did not destroy the inner ear. With therapy, his hearing could be near normal. Near normal. Victoria covered her mouth. Oliver turned to her. He reached for her hands. "I do not know how to repay you." She pulled back gently. "You already did. He is alive. He is not in pain." Oliver shook his head. "That is not enough." Over the next weeks, the mansion changed. Music returned. Laughter followed. Silence loosened its grip. And one morning, as Shaw sat at the kitchen table drawing, something happened. A sound. A faint clink of a spoon against a bowl. Shaw froze. His eyes widened. He looked up. And for the first time in his life, he heard something. He gasped. Then he laughed. A sound no one in that house had ever heard before. His own voice. The laugh echoed through the kitchen like a miracle. Everyone froze. The maid holding the tray stopped mid-step. Mrs. Patterson's hand flew to her mouth. Oliver felt his heart slam against his ribs so hard it hurt. Shaw was laughing. Not silently. Not mimicking. Not guessing. Laughing. Oliver dropped to his knees again, this time unable to stop himself. Tears blurred his vision as he reached for his son. "Shaw, can you hear that?" Shaw did not understand the words yet. But he understood the emotion. He nodded excitedly, pointing at the spoon, then at his ear, then at his father. Sound. Over the next days, sounds trickled into Shaw's world like drops of rain after a drought. Footsteps. Pages turning. Doors closing. Each sound startled him at first. Then fascinated him. Then delighted him. Speech therapy began immediately. Words were slow. Broken. Awkward. But they came. Ba. Da. Pa. Each syllable felt like a victory. Oliver stayed home from work. Meetings were canceled. Calls went unanswered. Nothing mattered more than sitting beside his son, repeating words, watching his face light up with every new sound. And through it all, Victoria remained quiet. She continued cleaning, cooking, keeping to herself. Until one afternoon, Oliver stopped her in the hallway. "Come with me." She followed him into the study. The same room where he once sat drowning in silence. Now, sunlight filled the space. Oliver handed her an envelope. Victoria frowned. "What is this?" "Your future." Inside was a check. An amount so large her knees nearly gave out. "This is too much." "No, it is not enough." He looked at her steadily. "I reviewed your file. You left college because you could not afford it. You wanted to study nursing." Victoria's breath caught. "How did you?" "I pay attention now." He placed another envelope beside the first. "Your grandmother's nursing home is paid in full. For the rest of her life." Victoria's eyes filled with tears. "I did not do this for money." "I know. That is why you deserve it." She shook her head, overwhelmed. Oliver's voice softened. "You gave my son a life. I will give you the chance to build yours." Victoria cried then. Quietly. The way she had learned to cry when life was heavy. For the first time in years, the weight on her chest lifted. And the mansion no longer felt like a tomb. It felt like a home. Months passed. Shah's progress astonished everyone. His vocabulary grew. His laughter grew louder. His confidence bloomed in ways no one had dared to imagine. Oliver watched his son discover music for the first time. The way Shah tilted his head, mesmerized by melodies, like he was decoding a secret language. One evening, Shah sat beside Victoria on the couch, holding a children's book. He pointed to a word and looked at her. Read. His voice was small. Imperfect. Beautiful. Victoria smiled and began to read. Oliver watched from the doorway, his chest tight with gratitude. He thought about how close he had come to losing everything. How silence had almost claimed his soul. And how salvation had arrived disguised as a maid with tired eyes and a brave heart. The truth came out weeks later. An internal investigation confirmed it. The metal fragment had likely been left behind during a rushed delivery. A preventable mistake. One buried under paperwork and assumptions. Oliver chose not to destroy lives. Instead, he chose purpose. He funded a foundation dedicated to second opinions. To overlooked cases. To children labeled untreatable. Victoria became its first scholarship recipient. She returned to school. She studied. She thrived. Years later, Shah stood on a stage at his school, holding a microphone. Oliver sat in the front row, hands shaking. Victoria sat beside him. Shah took a breath. Hello, my name is Shah Hart. The room went quiet. I was told I would never hear. Never speak. Never live normally. He paused, smiling. They were wrong. Applause erupted. Oliver closed his eyes, tears streaming freely. Because sometimes, miracles do not come from the powerful. They come from the ones who choose to see. And all it takes to change a life is paying attention.